Last Saturday, I almost called my daughter over a set of bed sheets. Not because anything terrible happened. Not because I was sick. I was standing upstairs in my guest room, folding the same lavender-colored sheets I've washed every Saturday for years, and suddenly I started crying. Real crying. The kind that catches you off guard. Because for the first time I asked myself a question I'd been avoiding for a very long time. Who am I doing this for? The room was spotless. The bed was perfectly made. The windows were cracked open just enough to let fresh air in, and nobody had slept in that room for almost 3 years. I just stood there holding a pillowcase, staring at this beautiful empty room, and realized I had spent nearly a decade preparing for people who weren't coming. My name is Eleanor. I'm 77 years old. My husband passed away 9 years ago, and since then I've been living alone in this big 3-bedroom house. People always tell me how well I keep it. Oh, Eleanor, your home is beautiful. It's always so clean. You keep everything ready for the family. And every time someone said that, I felt proud of myself. I thought that meant I was handling loneliness correctly. I thought keeping the house perfect meant I was staying strong. But I need to tell you something honestly. Sometimes the things that look healthiest from the outside are the very things quietly keeping you stuck. And living alone has a strange way of hiding that from you, because nobody sees your routines except you. Nobody notices when a habit stops making sense. Nobody asks why you're still preparing a guest room every single week for people who barely visit anymore. You just keep doing it because it feels normal. That's what happened to me. Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, I'd go upstairs with a basket of clean laundry. Same routine: strip the bed, wash the sheets, dust the nightstand, fold the blanket at the foot of the bed exactly the way I used to when the children were younger. I even replaced the lavender sachets in the closet every month. And do you know what's strange? I never questioned it. In my mind, I was just being a good mother, responsible, prepared. What if the kids decide to visit? What if someone needs a place to stay? Why should keep everything ready? But little by little, that room stopped being a room. It became a waiting room, and without realizing it, my whole life started feeling like one too, waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for someone to visit, waiting for the holidays, waiting for life to feel full again. And the dangerous part is waiting can look a lot like living if you stay busy enough. That's something nobody tells you about aging alone. The loneliness rarely arrives all at once. It sneaks in quietly through routines, through silence, through habits that slowly replace real joy. Then last Saturday, while vacuuming that same empty room, something happened that honestly scared me. My heart suddenly started pounding hard. fast enough that I had to stop moving. At first I thought maybe I stood up too quickly, but then the room started spinning a little. I remember grabbing the edge of the dresser and sitting down on the bed, and I'll never forget this thought. I looked at those perfectly clean sheets and thought, if something happens to me right now, nobody will know. Not today. Maybe not for days. That thought changed something inside me, because suddenly the spotless room didn't feel comforting anymore. It felt sad. There I was, exhausting myself, cleaning a room nobody used, while completely ignoring the woman actually living in the house. Me. And once I saw that truth, I started noticing other things too, like how often I said I was fine, when I really wasn't. People ask how you're doing, and after enough years, you answer automatically. I'm fine. The house is fine. The quiet is fine. Everything is fine. But sometimes fine is just another word for emotionally tired. I started realizing how small my world had become. Some days the only voices I heard were from the television. A few months ago, I actually caught myself talking to my cat during dinner like she was another person sitting at the table. And honestly, that wasn't even the part that bothered me most. The part that bothered me was realizing I hadn't spoken to another human being all day. Maybe not even the day before. I still remember going to the grocery store later that week and saying, "Thank you," to the cashier. My own voice sounded strange, rusty, like I hadn't used it properly in a while. That feeling stayed with me all night, because humans aren't meant to disappear into silence. And when you live alone long enough, silence starts changing you without permission. You stop reaching out because you don't want to bother people. You stop making plans because staying home feels easier. You stop trying new things because part of you quietly believes your meaningful years are behind you. And that's the lie I almost started believing. But sitting on that bed last Saturday, trying to catch my breath, I realized something important. I don't want the rest of my life to be spent maintaining empty rooms. I don't want my days centered around preparing for a version of life that already passed. And I certainly don't want to disappear quietly inside routines that no longer make me happy. So I made a small decision, a very small one. This Saturday, I'm not washing those sheets. I know that sounds ridiculous, but for me it feels enormous. Instead, I'm doing something I've wanted to do for almost 10 years. Behind my house, there's a little corner near the garden fence where the afternoon sunlight falls across the flowers in the prettiest way. My husband used to tell me I should paint it someday. I used to love painting when I was younger. Somewhere along the way, I stopped. Life got busy, then grief got heavy, then routine took over. But this Saturday, instead of cleaning that empty guest room again, I bought a small set of paints. nothing fancy, just enough to begin. And I cried in the car afterward, not because I was sad, because for the first time in years, I felt like I was choosing something for myself instead of waiting for someone else. I think that's the hardest part about growing older alone. You have to relearn how to belong to your own life, not your children's schedules, not your memories, not the roles you used to have, your own life. And I'm still learning. Some days are harder than others. Sometimes the house still feels painfully quiet. Sometimes I still walk past that guest room and feel the urge to straighten the pillows. Sometimes I miss my husband so much it catches me completely off guard. But I'm beginning to understand something I wish I'd understood sooner. Being alone is not the same thing as being finished. There is still life left here, still joy, still purpose, still small, beautiful moments waiting for me if I'm willing to stop living in the past long enough to notice them. So now, I try to do one thing every day that reminds me I'm still part of the world. Sometimes it's a conversation with a neighbor. Sometimes it's sitting outside with coffee instead of eating in front of the television. Sometimes it's simply opening the curtains earlier in the morning. Tiny things. But tiny things matter when you live alone, because tiny habits are what slowly shape your life. And maybe that's why I wanted to share this today. Because if you're living alone too, maybe you understand exactly what I mean. Maybe you also have routines that once brought comfort, but now just keep you emotionally standing still. Maybe you've been calling yourself fine for so long that you forgot you deserve more than that. And maybe, just maybe, it isn't too late for either of us to start living a little differently. I'm 77 years old. I still miss my husband. I still have lonely days. But for the first time in a long time, I'm finally learning how to stop waiting for life to come back the way it was, and instead start building a life around the person who is still here. Me.